Hello, everybody, and welcome to week 2 of my 10-week grieving workshop. Our week 2 edition is the anger stage of grieving. Before I begin, as I always do, this is the self-check-in portion where you take about 30 seconds to figure out how you're doing, think about it, speak it out loud, write it down. How is everybody feeling today on a scale of 1 to 10? If your number is 6 and below, I hope that you feel just a little bit better after watching my video. And if it's 7 to 10, I hope that you continue trending upwards. I want to begin this week with a summary of what we talked about last week, which was stage 1, the denial phase. It can be characterized by feeling shocked and emotionally numb, being unable to process emotions, avoiding reminders of the loss, staying busy to avoid thinking about the loss, procrastinating in dealing with the loss and all of its consequences, avoiding conversations about what you have lost. It is a built-in defense mechanism to assist us until we are ready to bear the brunt of the loss. So we learned in this stage that denial is not necessarily a bad thing. It's something that our subconscious mind naturally does to protect us from the hurt that we are eventually going to feel from understanding and feeling the full depth of this loss that has occurred. So take a moment to answer this question. What do you actually know about the anger stage of grieving? What is the anger phase continued? It's a phase where feelings of frustration, resentment, and at times rage dominate our emotions. Alongside anger, it's common for people to experience different emotions such as sadness, guilt, confusion, and even relief. These reactions to loss can come and go throughout the process, sometimes even overlapping one another. One of my absolute favorite movies of all time was the movie Inside Out, which was a visual representation of a control panel that shows how our emotions are controlled. And two of the main characters were joy and anger. I'm going to read these. Joy's goal has always been to make sure Riley stays happy. She is lighthearted, optimistic, and determined to find the fun in every situation. Joy sees challenges in Riley's life as opportunities, and the less happy moments as hiccups on the way back to something great. As long as Riley is happy, so is Joy. And then there's anger. Anger feels very passionately about making sure things are fair for Riley. He has a fiery spirit and tends to explode, literally, as you can see by the picture, when things don't go as planned. He is quick to overreact and has little patience for life's imperfections. There's something that I discovered through doing the research for this particular section. Anger can actually be useful temporarily. Anger is designed to promote survival, fight or flight response. We always hear about fight or flight when it comes to being scared or being anxious, but anger is actually something that correlates with fight or flight as well. Anger involves the release of complex emotions, and once the surge is over, you might feel a level of calmness and self reflection. Anger may provide a temporary distraction to protect us from the pain we feel from our loss. As we can see, that's a common theme. In denial, we also have a temporary distraction to protect us from the pain we feel from our loss. These are all short term benefits, however, and if left unchecked, they can lead to bigger issues. So, when is anger not so useful? When it begins to interfere with your daily function and hinders your ability to process grief naturally. If it causes you to isolate yourself from your support network. When it triggers or creates worsening mental health symptoms such as anxiety or depression. When it leads to physical symptoms such as high blood pressure. So I have some photos here of some things that might invoke an anger response. And it was interesting because as I was leading my group that had participants in it, everyone had different responses to what they would do if they saw this baby about to touch this hot pot on the stove. I know in my experience and with my family in particular, there would be some yelling involved, and then somebody would probably run and grab me, and then there would probably be a lecture, some spanking. Um, don't touch that stove. The stove is hot, because that's the way that my parents and family who helped raise me knew how to prevent me from being in dangerous situations like that. So in that particular case, in my opinion, I would remember the first time, the anger response the first time, and probably not do it the second time. So that might be an example of where anger could be useful to you. Now, this was actually something that happened in California some years ago, where one car hit the other car and then they both got out. They squared up. They had a fight. I think the guy in the blue shirt won, if I'm not mistaken. He threw some Hail Marys in there and then he was just punching him on the ground. Not that that matters. It's on YouTube. You can look it up. But this is an example of where anger might not be necessary, because they hit each other's cars. Whoever's fault it is doesn't really matter, because as you know, you're still going to have to go through the whole insurance process. You're probably going to have to pay a deductible. Both insurances are going to go up. And on top of that, now you're fighting. This is another funny one, because as I brought it up in the group, somebody said, well, if I was the one who won the fight, I'd feel pretty good. But then I'm like, even if you won the fight, you're still going to have to go through the process of the insurance. And then on top of that, maybe you're going to get in trouble for the fight as well. And in this day and age, you're going to go viral. So, again, in my opinion, this is an example of where the anger, or the response to the anger, I should say, is unnecessary, because anyone's going to get angry that, you know, now they have to pull their car over, exchange insurances, possibly call the police, and go through a process of getting the car repaired. But then the response is irrational, because people get in car accidents every day. This particular picture, I think, sparked the most controversy out of the group. Everyone said they would have different reactions to it. Some people said they would just clean the dishes because they can't stand to look at it. Some people said they would leave the dishes in there and start using paper plates. Some people said they would yell at whoever it was who did this, whether it's kids, whether it's their kids, whether it's their spouse, or whether it's their roommates. Um, this would definitely elicit an angry response from almost anyone. And it would be justified. As long as it's within reason, I think that this is a justified anger response. Now, you may be asking yourself, what do those pictures and examples have to do with the anger phase of grieving specifically? And my answer is it was just to demonstrate that there are necessary and unnecessary responses to anger, but anger in and of itself is something that we all face. Because when I posted those pictures for my group, some people felt triggered by some of those pictures, and some people felt it was just run of the mill. They weren't triggered by those pictures. We all have things that make us angry. We all have things that make us angry, but it's our responses to the anger that can be healthy or unhealthy. So, on to what the anger phase of grief looks like: a loss of control of your thoughts and actions, extreme irritability, possibly things that happen on a regular day to day that you could just let go of. You're having a really hard time with that because you're feeling angry regarding your loss, maybe why it happened, or maybe you're angry at the person who's gone, who you can no longer talk to, or maybe you're angry at the people who remain and you're thinking back to their care. There's all kind of reasons that people feel angry in the grief, in the anger phase of grief. Growing anxiety and a fear of loss, which I personally have experienced. Continued obsession over what happened and why. Behavioral overreactions. Feeling like life isn't fair. Difficulty expressing or identifying feelings. Some notes about anger. The feeling of anger in and of itself is natural and not necessarily destructive. As I was saying, different things trigger different people. Something that might make me angry might have no difference to somebody else, but there's something for everybody that makes you feel angry. Intense feelings need to be expressed and not denied. Finding a safe but controlled way to express your anger can be healthy, such as speaking to a friend, loved one, or counselor. Writing down your thoughts. Doing something you can physically release some of those feelings, such as a boxing class. Being able to cry or yell. Be self compassionate while grieving. Seek support and get professional help if needed. If you have any questions or comments for me, please leave them in the comment section below, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. I want to thank you for taking this time to join me on this journey, this 10-week journey on the different stages of grieving and how to get through it. I hope that this has benefited you. I appreciate you for taking that time, and I hope that this helps you on your healing journey. Next week, we are going to jump into the bargaining stage, and I look forward to that as that's a really interesting one. Have a great day, everybody, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you for tuning in. For more mental health content, please subscribe to my channel. If you would like to work with me directly, my information is on the bottom of the screen. Talk to you soon.